Well, our guest is ready to go, and we're excited to have him on. It's been a while, but he did spend... I remember last time he was here in our studio, his conversation was so engaging, but if you guys recall, I had to pee really bad.
Yes. And he accommodated you.
Left the studio while the interview continued, peed, and came back. It's the only time in our 25-plus year career, 24 years, however long we've been together, that I've ever done anything like that. And he was very accommodating.
He was a trooper.
I think we did like 2 long segments with him, so it's awesome to have him back on. He's going to be at Helium Comedy Club tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday. What?
I think he went off to pee.
Oh, we're watching the Zoom. He just walked in.
He just got up and walked away.
Introduce him. He might still be
Ladies
listening.
and gentlemen, T.J. Miller.
And there he is. I just got back. I was in the bathroom.
How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you guys doing? It's a shame I can't be in studio, but I'm here in my blurry home, which is really, really nice to be here. Everything's kind of opaque, and every so often I wonder, is that my wife or is that a chair?
Right. We're
cool.
watching the Zoom. He's got a blurred background, and so it's a big mystery as to what's behind him.
TJ, I think...
that's great. Well, wait. So this is just audio?
No, we're seeing the video.
Well, we can see you, but our audience cannot right now. Now, when we will post this later on where people can see what's going on, but we're on the radio for the audience live right now.
Well, this is fantastic, and I'm sure your listeners love to hear the particulars of how we're doing this. That's great that I'm bringing all that up and using the time wisely. No, it's so fun. You know, I haven't been to Philadelphia in... 2 years, over 2 years. And that's one of my favorite places to perform.
Excellent.
And this same Helium has a club in Portland, which is also one of the great clubs, but I didn't miss them at all because the Pac Northwest and the West Coast is all a bunch of, a word that I can't say on terrestrial radio.
Okay.
But so it's fun because I've missed kind of these East Coast places like Boston and Philadelphia, but Philadelphia is much more fun than Boston. I played the Wilbur Theater, which is just really, really big and not as personal as Helium in Philadelphia. It's such a great club, so I'm excited to be back, and I love Philadelphia as a city.
Well, everyone's excited. I mean, and Helium is such a great club, and you're great, and that energy that you can only get when you're down in the club, and that's, to me, Helium is the perfect design. It's a wide room, shallow, and so to be back and be doing what you love to do. I mean, how long did you have to take? Were you able to finagle gigs throughout most of the pandemic, or did you have to kind of go into a general lockdown yourself?
Well, it's interesting because. Well, first of all, just off of what you said about being sort of in the club and right there, I had one of the great Saturday nights of my life because I'm always working. And here in New York, I came back from where we were visiting my father-in-law. I drove all the way in 3 hours to get into the city to go to see. I saw Louis C.K., but it was at the Hulu Theater. So it was this gigantic theater, Right. And it was just one of the great shows I've ever seen. He's so funny. What he's doing right now is just so, it's so funny that I want to tell the bits to you guys. He was doing really interesting stuff about how during the pandemic, we got really good at counting deaths.
Right.
Figuring out how to describe deaths, and that, this is like a September 11th every day. And then he went through and he said, well, World War II was this many September 11ths. Right. Was this many September 11ths. And then he says, but, September 11th, that was really only one September 11th. Right. It wasn't that bad.
Right.
Of how many people died. So it's just, he's doing that level of stuff. But then right afterwards, I was driving home and I saw that Marlon Wayans was at the Gotham Comedy Club. So I just had the car stop and I went in there to watch his show because I play that club. And it was just such a different experience because those are two titans of comedy. But in the club, it's just you're so much more present and you're really moving around people to see what's he doing and what's, so you're just so much more actively engaged. And that's why I love doing clubs opposed to theaters. And you're right, Helium is one of the great clubs, but that intimacy is a big part of why, I wasn't able to work for 7 months. I was unemployed for 7 months.
So doing like the parking lot stuff or the sort of hacks, like Bert Kreischer, for example. He came to town. Bert is so big on stage that he rocked that, but it's not everybody's strength,
Well, I was performing in parking lots, but not comedy. there was a time, gentlemen, that I was doing things that I wasn't very proud of.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Of course, I mean I was a parking lot attendant for Bert Kreischer's truck.
I thought I saw you.
It was nothing very sexual, but I do a little extra. If people gave me a $20, it was $15 to park. $20 if you want to see me move my stuff. Move my thing. But I know I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't do any Zoom shows except for this one that's happening right now. But I just felt like this for stand-up comedy just wasn't it just wasn't really what I wanted to be doing. And it just didn't match. It was like people have seen me on screen in film and television. Yeah. And I think that's where they should remember me on screen, not from my living room. And then those drive-in movie theaters, I mean, I am very big on stage. I've got, I do some juggling stuff. Yeah. I do, I improvise. But a lot of what makes my show great is that I'm improvising and riffing and working off the crowd. Right. And I can't do that if everybody's in their cars. I can't be like, hey, did you just honk? What are you honking about? Where are you from? And flash 5 times if you're in IT. Flash 6 times if you're in hospitality. Flash 7 times if you're an accountant. Flash 7 times. They go, oh, look at this guy in accountant. That's why you're driving a Prius. Those are over. Tesla's where it's at now. That's not going to work.
Right, it's not. Yeah.
It's not going to work. Yeah. And so I just felt it was better to kind of wait until I could return to and I focused on my podcast, Cashing In with TJ Miller. Right. And I also, obviously, I have a hot sauce that's available on my site. TJ Miller does not have a website.com.
Dude, you have peanut butter. I've heard of people having hot sauces before. You have peanut butter.
I just rolled out my new line of peanut butter. In fact, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm going to
go for it. He's getting up to go get... I guess he keeps it in the bathroom.
And I've just recently come around to like flavored peanut butters, which are another level of awesome. And that's what TJ, I assume that's what he's going to get right now, but he's got some different.
Exactly right.
Flavored peanut butters.
All my stuff is downstairs because I'm bringing it to Philadelphia, obviously, but I worked with these people. It's called Be Happy Peanut Butter. Oh, perfect.
Oh, yeah, no, it's out of focus. Hold it back. There we go. Hold it back a little bit. There you go. Right there. Got it.
Yep.
And so it's gourmet peanut butter. So you eat it right out of there with a spoon.
Wow.
And mine is, I have 3 flavors. I have chocolate coconut, which is real coconut, dark chocolate, and peanuts.
Cool. That's cool.
Then I have cherry chocolate, which is dried cherries and dark chocolate and honey roasted peanuts. And then I have Toffee Crispy, which is toffee, milk chocolate, and then Rice Krispies. And that's my crunchy peanut butter.
Did they present these to you, or did you come up with these flavors?
Yeah. So what I do is it's the same with the hot sauce. I work with these are family companies, family friends. The Scoville brothers, they're in Central Indiana, and they're friends. So we went back and forth and figured out, okay, I like the Chipotle heat but a little bit more heat, smoky but a little more heat. Okay, for the Insane Ghost Pepper type S that has a lot of cuss words in that label for that. That one is, I wanted something really, really hot but still with flavor. So we work on that stuff. And with the peanut butter, I love toffee, and I love their idea of Rice Krispie treats because it's Be Happy peanut butter. So they have all their own kind of peanut butters as well. And then the cherry chocolate, I just felt was like, it's like, have you ever had that Goober, the Smuckers, gel on the peanut butter? Yep. Well, that's trash, right? That is garbage. That's wet, hot garbage compared to my cherry chocolate peanut butter. And so it really does feel like it's the peanut butter and jelly but this is gourmet peanut butter. You eat it right out of the jar. I have yet to use it on a sandwich because I'm done with the entire jar before I can figure out where the bread is.
A couple of questions are flooding my mind. You said the Scoville brothers. Did you say that? Yes. Are these the creator of the Scoville scale that everyone uses to judge hotness of peppers?
No, that's from that was long before them, but that's kind of where they got their moniker.
All right.
They said, we love Scoville, and this is, so theirs is Scoville Brothers hot sauce. And
gotcha.
You can find them online also. And the Weed family, which is the peanut butter family, their last name is Weed, which I think is perfect. It can't be more perfect. And they're also based out of Central Indiana. So these are both kind of mom and pop operations. The Be Happy people, this was a class project for their kids, try and make peanut butter and sell it. And they said, well, why don't we sell this stuff? It's good. And now I think it's basically their full-time job. And then collaborating with me. So as you guys can see, I'm trying to get out of the comedy business.
No, listen.
Distribution of peanut butter, hot sauce, and foodstuffs.
Right. Look at like George Clooney. His entire entertainment career was eclipsed by the booze, right? I mean, so if you get something like this, and by the way, the first peanut butter you mentioned sounds like a Mounds bar with the coconut and dark chocolate. Would that be fair to say?
And almond, so it'd be more like an almond joy.
Like an almond joy, yeah.
Well, sometimes you feel like a nut and sometimes you don't.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes
that's right.
You feel like you're going insane and you want to kill everybody around you. Sometimes you want coconut.
Exactly.
And so that's exactly right. I mean, it's not candy, but it's really a dessert peanut butter. And
so where do we get it? Where can we get it?
Yeah, it's on tjmiller.doesnothaveawebsite.com.
Okay, but I mean,
but also
no stores?
At the shows.
Okay.
And those shows are, I think, almost sold out. We have some tickets left for the late shows, but call right now to get your tickets. Tonight's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's just, I love that Thursday first show feel. But what I do is instead of selling T-shirts or something like that after shows, I sell the peanut butter and the hot sauce. And so you can come and get your peanut butter. I'll autograph it so it's worth less. And then, you can get some peanut butter and hot sauce afterwards, say hello, which is always great for me too. I love sort of being able to interact with the audience after the show and hear what they said. People tell me, oh, I love doing this, I love doing that. And I say, I don't care about that anymore. I want you to try the peanut butter, try the hot sauce.
Right.
I want to be known as a guy. It's like George Clooney. I don't want to be known as the guy that's from film and television and Erlich Bachman and Weasel and the guy Clay from Office Christmas Party. I want people to say, I know his peanut butter and his hot sauce and, his pickles, because I'm coming out with a line of pickles soon. Yeah. I want to know, but didn't he used to be on television or something? Gotcha. Wasn't he? Who cares? I don't know.
I mean, that makes sense to me. Again, Francis Ford Coppola, right? The great Godfather director. His wine has far eclipsed all the money he ever made from any of the movies. Mm-hmm. So that's clearly...
People don't know about this.
Yes.
Yeah, an entertainment career is just a jumping off point to sell food and beverage.
Your peanut butter and pickles.
I wish I was kidding. But, Ryan Reynolds is hawking Aviation Gym, his little... butt buddy, Jack Human is the best porn name of all time.
Jack Human.
Yeah.
If he doesn't jokingly use that as his pornographic name, that is so good. Jack Human.
So with the gin, and obviously
he's hawking coffee now.
Yeah.
It's just that's what we all want. That's what we all want to do. We just want to transition from acting and producing and writing and directing. Yes, I have a series that I wrote about the pandemic called The Loneliest Megaplex, where it's when people got movie theaters open back up and nobody was seeing movies. So
right.
My character, that's me. I get hired back, but I'm the only person they hire. So it's just me at this 30-screen Megaplex. Yes, that's funny. Yes, I have this podcast, Cashing In with TJ Miller, which is great. The host, Cash Levy, a great friend of mine, It's an interview show. He's had trouble getting guests.
Right.
So I've been the only guest on the show for 237 episodes. Yes, those are great things. But I want people to get into the peanut butter and wash it down with the hot sauce. That's the point. That's what we're all here to do.
You know, it's funny, even though you've been away from us, we haven't seen you in a while, I feel like I constantly see you because the Deadpool movies run constantly. And
they run constantly.
Yeah. I mean, all the time. And the especially the second Deadpool 2, your exchange with Cable when you're being held prisoner, I think, is hilarious. And I want to know, it was clearly you're doing a ton of improv in it. How long did that scene take to get it the way everyone wanted it?
You know, it's some of these scenes, that scene specifically, if I remember, was some of these scenes take a while, but some of them we just get the writing as is, which is really good. Those two writers are amazing. And then we, then I improvise.
Right.
And Josh Brolin isn't really he's not an improviser. He's a, meat and potatoes actor. He's great. He can do anything. I mean, anything. But he kind of does the lines and he wants to get them exactly right. And then I, of course, just do the lines and then I'll improvise. Everybody, even Michael Bay always says, you're really good in your first takes, and then it gets weaker and weaker. Thank you. That's why you can't be doing one take instead of yelling at me for 5 takes.
Right.
And, but yeah, that one, we improvised, we got it, and then we improvised afterwards, and they didn't use the thing that I thought was the funniest. It's all a funny scene, but one of the takes at the end, I say, now go, Cable, kill Deadpool. And that was just such a funny idea
that you completely turn on him.
At the end of this torture scene, quote unquote, I'm sort of saying, go get him, kill him, kind of because he put me through this predicament. That just perfectly personified their friendship, I think perfectly. But yeah, that's such a funny one. But all of it is improvised. I mean, I often mention to Kate that whenever we're out and somebody sort of says a line or quotes a line, they're almost always ones that I improvised. And I think that's just because they're the most me.
Right.
That's me. That's me doing comedy with nobody else besides having given me a character. All the stuff from Silicon Valley, all that stuff. So, and even, I have parents who I just did a voicemail. These parents came and said, well, we love you from your movies, that are appropriate for us, but our kids love Big Hero 6. Would you do that song, Fred's Angels?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that.
And I said, remember it, I wrote it. I improvised that song just on the spot, and then they used it. And so that's just amazing to me, as I get to have people say, well, I really like your, I really like this particular line, or this makes me laugh. From She's Out of My League, they'll go, who brought the good news bear? Somebody bring her some honey.
Right.
And yeah, I just made that up. And in my mind, when I said it, none of these things, when you say these lines, are you thinking, I'll be hearing about this for 10 years.
Right. But it's so pure.
And in that case, it was just me being silly.
Yeah.
I mean, who brought the good news beer? Somebody give her some honey. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
But that's what people love that. And I do too. It's a great part of it. And it's my sense of humor. And I'm glad that people appreciate it.
I mean, obviously you get hired because of that capability and what you do. But have you ever been with a director who was staunchly the words as they are and wasn't having any of your improvisational capabilities?
Not really, because if you hire me, you know that that's what you're getting.
Right.
But on Silicon Valley, there were 2 guys. One is Mike Judge, who's a genius.
Yep.
And so funny and so easy to work with. And the other guy was this guy who wrote for Curb Your Enthusiasm and for Seinfeld a little bit, but mostly Curb Your Enthusiasm. And he is such a funny guy. And he is an excellent writer. And he was the showrunner. And he just would be such a dick about only doing his stuff.
Really?
And I just never understood it. I was always like, well, you're the one making the edit.
Right.
So why don't you just let me do my thing and then you can not use it?
Exactly.
At least you have an option. Certainly, because with a little perspective, you might say, you know what, TJ's saying, but I don't care. That's the thing that's so confusing to me. It's not about me getting the most lines in or any of that stuff. Mark Wahlberg said a really funny thing because he thinks about how much is he on camera, how many close-ups does he have. He's doing the math on all that, which is really brilliant.
Right.
You know? But I don't care how much. All I care about is that it's funny and people like it and it makes people happy and they forget about the tragedy that permeates our everyday life, especially during the pandemic. So that's all I care about. But he was really dead set on just do it as written and we'll do one more as written. He just wanted to get it like that. And I would say, look, I did it as you wrote it and we got it and it's great. So let's try something else. And I think it was because he was scared that I would do something that was funnier than what he wrote. And when they got into the editing room, he would be overruled, right? Because it's not just him, especially if he's not directing.
Yeah.
Which wasn't. He directed some of the series. And that was those are the difficult episodes to do. But, they had these guest directors and then Mike Judge directed. And that's sort of, I think that's what it was. If I did something really funny, people would go, "Now let's use his take."
It's interesting because we're friends with Adam McKay, and Adam McKay.
Oh yeah.
If you see, when his process, each of his movies, and like when you have people like Will Ferrell, they go line after improv, and they keep a scene going and on and on and on.
Judd Apatow does
the same thing. Mm-hmm. So much so with the second Anchorman movie. They released a second version of the movie with all alternate lines, so.
And I love that second. Anchorman 2, I was crying laughing. That's one of those movies that is just the funniest thing. I haven't showed that to my father-in-law, who we've been showing him all the funniest movies.
Right.
And we just showed him The Big Lebowski.
Oh wow! Man. What was the reaction?
What's that?
What was the reaction? How did he like it?
I've got a joke about him in my act because the night before that we showed him Ruthless People, and we do need to show him Anchorman. You just reminded me we want to show him Raising Arizona. But I have a joke about him because when he laughs really hard, he'll cuss at the end. So he'll go, ha, 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 oh, God damn it. It's all levels of how funny it is.
Right.
So if it's not really, really funny, but it's funny, he'll go, oh, no, oh, my. But if it's really funny, he'll be like, oh, mother. You get it.
Yeah. That's a wild reaction.
Really fun.
Yeah.
That's really, really fun. But we got to show him Anchorman because you're right. I mean, they did. And that's another thing is whenever I always hope that there's a blooper reel because then you'll see so many of the things that I did that people don't,
Well, I wanted to ask you, too, because actually Nick on the show, Nick just had a situation where, Nick, describe what happened to you.
Briefly speaking, TJ, I was hiking out west. I fell off the side of a mountain. I have a pretty severe, serious concussion.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so I'm
Is that why you're dressed like that?
I guess. I mean, I could use that as an excuse.
Are you wearing a lanyard that says where you're supposed to be throughout the day?
Yeah.
Schedule.
But my eyesight's messed up. My brain's pretty messed up, and I know you've been through some similar stuff.
Yes.
So what's your status? Because I know, you went through some real serious stuff. And the funny thing is, or not, or at least the serious aspect that people have a hard time embracing because it's not something where you're putting a cast on it or there's a visible Band-Aid. People don't know how to process it. And I know that you've had to deal with people, not grasping what you were going through, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I didn't mean to, make light of the concussion, but that's kind of the only thing that you could do with it. And what I've really recently come to understand, and I just kind of putting a Band-Aid on it, it's an interesting way of putting it because I just sort of disregard it. I take medication morning and evening, a lot of medication. It's all anti-seizure medication. But what it really is to stop me from getting a seizure, a stroke, or an aneurysm. Wow. Those are kind of the three things that I'm really, really worried about. And I took this medication called Keppra. And what I was doing is I just said, oh, I have this condition from them removing, it's called an AVM. It's a malformation of my brain. They took out a golf ball size of my frontal lobe, my right frontal lobe. And I sort of always just saw that as, okay, I had this brain surgery. But what I've come to understand in the last, 2 or 3 years is that I am brain damaged.
Right.
And that kind of wasn't something that I wanted to really associate with my identity, because I function, well, I wouldn't say perfectly as a human being, right. But I function, like other people. And so on the surface, you don't know that I'm brain damaged. It's just I act very erratically sometimes. I'm prone to manic episodes. So that medication also helps me not become manic. But my thinking happens really, really fast. It helps me on stage. But then in the past, I've kind of self-medicated and tried to slow things down with alcohol or nitrous oxide. I also have taken mood stabilizers. What I found out just recently is that the medication that was on Keppra, for 10 years I was on this medication, and I just switched to another medication, 6 months or so ago. And when I switched, my neurologist, who's a very funny guy, he's very he speaks as a person who would be interested in the brain and isn't a real cut-up at parties. I'm not much of a cut-up, I'm more of a square. His name's Dr. Colin Stokely. He's so funny. I put him in my HBO special. But he sort of said, well, Kate said, well, the medication that used to be on Keppra, were there any side effects to that? Because there was no alternative.
Right.
And he goes, yes, irritability, mood stability, impulse control problems. So yes, quite a few. And Kate's going, well, we could have used that information. That's the whole problem with my husband.
Yes.
He can't control impulses. His mood can be all over the place sometimes. So we thought that was kind of funny, because he didn't tell us that because there's no alternative. There's no other seizure medication for something as highly dangerous as my condition. But now this new medication I'm on called Vimpat, first of all, it's hilariously expensive. It's a new drug, so it costs like $3,000 a month.
Jeez.
But the insurance covers that, which is still a $200 copay or something.
Yeah.
But I'm sure my insurance agency is like, really? Did you have to? I mean, come on! Yeah. There's $40,000 a year just to keep you alive. But I'm like, well, have you seen an Emoji Movie? You look at 3D, it's worth it. And with this new medication, it's fascinating. I don't have that.
That's great.
I had an impulse to do anything, but if I had an impulse to I would just walk by like a food cart in New York City, because we live in Manhattan, and I would say, I'd like some halal food, and then I would just order it. I wouldn't be like, I'm having dinner in like an hour. I did not operate like that. And the mood stability, I'd go to these manic places, and I've gotten in a lot of trouble during manic episodes.
Well, it's important to hear that and to know, because it is something that people have become more acutely aware of these things that really are every bit as substantive, but seem more ephemeral to people or more intangible because it's in the brain. You can't see a physical sign of it. And so to hear that you're having success with this is really encouraging.
Well, I love that you're saying that, because there is, mental health, and also just, I don't know if you've seen The Weight of Gold, but it's an HBO documentary where they talk about Olympians and the depression that comes after having this. I've worked my whole life, and it's over in a couple of weeks. That's it. And so people are becoming more aware of that. The idea of sort of being brain damaged, and exactly what you said, people don't see me and look at me and say, well, he's brain damaged.
Yeah.
They look at me and they say, well, he's a loose cannon. What a jerk. He acts crazy. He'll fly off the handle. He did a really, lunatic level interview with the Hollywood Reporter, or he he won't sleep for days, so he must be a drug addict or something like that. And they're not kind of taking into account, well, no, he's brain damaged. And so that affects his mood and his mental health and his state of mind and where he is. And it would be a reason that he's trying to slow things down. And maybe, so instead of kind of going, well, he's just a drunk, they're not thinking, well, maybe he's looking for a medication. His medication isn't working for him, or he's looking for some way to slow down the manic speed of his thinking. So I really appreciate you saying that, because I'm realizing now that this is just the beginning of me trying to help the public understand and to help Hollywood understand that this has been a lifelong situation, because I was born with this thing.
Right.
And it was only removed in 2010, right after I was filming Yogi Bear 3D. Coincidence?
Right. Well,
I think not.
It's the best when you get a new medication that seems to be doing the trick, which is awesome. Dude, unfortunately, we got to wrap. We're so stoked that you're
What do you mean,
back.
Unfortunately? I have been wanting to go to the bathroom. It seems like it's been 2.5 hours. Guys, this is great. Wait, I'm starting to feel it's dribbling now, but go, let's talk about helium.
Yes, tonight and tomorrow and Saturday as well. And you're selling some of the tickets. I'm working on it. I'm speeding up. Get some tickets for the late show, heliumcomedy.com. We love you, TJ Miller. Thanks for coming.
I'll see you in Philadelphia.
All right.
Oh, before I go, I want to tell you guys on one of the shows, I'm not going to say which one, I'm going to eat 2 Philadelphia cheesesteaks in under a minute. Where do you guys recommend I get the cheesesteaks from? Come on.
We got Pat's and Geno's. They're right next to each other.
I like Jim's.
Yeah.
That's tourist trash.
Donkeys.
Right, I'm going in my pants.
All right, see you later. TJ Miller. Thank you. And he just logged off, so he's gone.